You're listening to KXSC 1560 AM or online at kxsc.org.
Hello out there, we're on the air. It's hockey night tonight. Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps and the players bump and the fans all go insane. Someone roars, Bobby scores at the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
Coming up on this week's version of the Faceoff. What is wrong with the Washington Capitals? Why would the Islanders trade for a goaltender that isn't going to play for them? And how are three superstars over 40 still able to compete with the rest of the league?
Like a burning flame, we see them slide the puck inside. It's a 1-1 hockey game.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Faceoff, USC's only hour-long hockey talk show. I'm your host, Graham Jenkins, and let's get started by discussing the worst team in the Eastern Conference and actually the rest of the NHL, the Washington Capitals. So, all right, where do I begin with how bad Washington has been? Well, for starters, they are 3-8-1 overall in the season, not only the worst record in the East, as I mentioned earlier, but also the worst record in the National Hockey League. All three of their wins have come at home, but even then they've lost 4 games at Verizon Center in regulation. Away from home, they're even worse. They've lost all 5 games they played, and one of those was in overtime, but for the most part, they've just been downright abysmal on the road. They have the worst goal differential in the NHL at -11, scoring 30 goals while also allowing 41. They are 27th in the NHL in goals against at 3.4 per game. More on that later as I diagnose what's wrong with the goaltending. And the penalty killing is just awful at 28% in the NHL. It's 71.7%. So that's just the surface of the problem. Now let's examine why it's been so bad. It really doesn't really make any sense. New acquisition, Mike Ribeiro, who was acquired from the Dallas Stars in a trade for Cody Eakin and a second-round pick. He's been pretty good for the Capitals. He's got 14 points overall. He leads the team with 14 points, with 10 of those were assists and 4 of those are goals. And Joe Ward is actually the team leader in goals with 5. But things start to go a little haywire when we discuss the goaltending. Michael Neuwirth, the starter for the Capitals, he leads the team with a 3.05 goals against average. I'll repeat that. He leads the team with a 3.05 goals against average. His save percentage is an .889. That also leads the team. When the goaltender leads the team with a 3.05 goals against average, or anything above 3, there's a serious problem here. Neuwirth's performance, it's been average. To the comparison to Braden Holtby, which I'll bring up later, there's actually not that much variance in his goals against average between wins and losses. He posts a 2.0 when he wins, but he's only won 1 game, and he has a 3.23 in losses, which is more around where he is overall in the season. And so what's wrong? What's with Braden Holtby? He is off to a really, really bad start. His goals against average on the season, 3.86. And that includes the shutout he posted on the Florida Panthers. So it was actually way worse than that before that game. His seasonal average, career average, check that, is a 2.45 goals against average. And this is going to be a cause for great concern if he continues to perform like this. And unlike Michael Neuwirth, there's no gray area for Holtby's performances this season. He's either great or terrible. In wins, he's posted a 1.0 GAA. He's won 2 games. And in losses, a 5.53. You want him to start on the road? Good luck with that. He's posting a 6.22 goals against average thus far in 2 road appearances, one of which he started. In the games he didn't start, against the Pittsburgh Penguins on February 7th, he gave up 3 goals to the Penguins in a second period that saw the Penguins score 5 goals. 3 goals were on the power play. He allowed 2 of those goals. The Capitals lost that game 5-2. How confident can you be in a goalie that has not shown he's reliable on the road? Personally, I wouldn't rely on him. Now, I would hope he would get better, but he hasn't shown me or perhaps Coach Adam Oates that he's capable of performing on the road. Now, obviously, that number will normalize. I don't expect him to have a 6.22 road goals against average, but it's a really bad start for the Capitals in the goaltending department. Now, people will say that the team in front of goaltenders has to help them out in order for a team to be successful. That's given. Well, the Capitals actually they allow an average of 29.5 shots per game as opposed to shooting 27.8 at the other team. There's not much of a difference between the shots for and shots against for the Capitals in that department. The team averages 2.5 goals a game, but that doesn't amount to much when the team gives up 3.4. And we have to look back at the penalty killing for the Capitals. The Capitals have been shorthanded. They're one of the most penalized teams in the NHL. They've been shorthanded 53 times, which is tied for sixth most in the NHL. Excuse me. However, they have given up 15 goals while on the penalty kill. Now, the team in front of them has to form the box to make sure that the puck stays outside the slot or outside any shooting lanes. Of course, those are givens. But if a shot does get through, goaltender's got to stop it. It's often said that the goaltender with the best penalty killer is the best penalty killer for a team. Excuse me. When one looks at the penalty kill when one looks at the poor penalty kill percentage and sees the goals against averages for both goaltenders, one can see it's not necessarily a coincidence that the poor goaltending contributes to poor penalty killing. But as bad as the goaltending has been for the Capitals, that is not their main worry. Their main worry is franchise player and $9 million a year captain Alex Ovechkin, who has 4 goals and 4 assists thus far in 10 games. Or 10 or 12, sorry. That number is not that fresh in the top of my head. But 3 of those 4 goals have come on the power play. He is not scoring very much in even strength, and that is a major concern for the Capitals. If the Capitals do want to succeed, Ovechkin, like I said earlier, needs to start scoring at even strength. And if it's not that he's not shooting that much. He's got 49 shots on a season that easily leads the team, and only 4 found the back of the net. The Capitals aren't paying Ovechkin, somebody who scored at least 50 goals on the season 4 times. One of those seasons he scored 65. They're not paying Ovechkin $9 million of the money he's getting to be second or third on the team in point production. They've got Ovechkin locked up until 2021, and they are not getting what they're paid for right now. From a point production outlook, things look pretty bleak for Ovechkin and Capitals fans. In 2009-2010, Ovechkin tallied 50 goals and 59 assists for 119 points in 72 games. I would say, from a point production standpoint, this is the last season in which Ovechkin was the Ovechkin that we were introduced to and sort of grew to know. Because the next season, he played more games, 79, in 2010-2011, and he tallied 32 goals and 53 assists. Check that. So he's still producing over 1 point per game, and at that season he was passing the puck a little bit more, or his assists were still there, but his goals went down by 20, which is a huge drop off for a player at Ovechkin's caliber. And it gets even worse the next season, in 2011-2012, when he scored 38 goals and 27 assists for a total of 65 points, which was the first season in Ovechkin's career that he produced at a less than a point per game pace. Now, I do need to qualify that season because Bruce Boudreau was fired in the middle of the season, and then they replaced him with an interim coach in Dale Hunter, who is known largely for defense. So people thought Hunter's system may have hurt Ovechkin's offensive production, it would be kind of a reasonable assertion for Ovechkin's lack of production. But then the Capitals hired Adam Oates over the offseason, who is known largely for his offense and through strict forechecking that will eventually lead to goals through poor or just open pucks in the slot where the defensemen are behind the net and there's nobody to protect the other goalie. That's what Adam Oates' system entails. And Ovechkin is not performing as well as he was under Bruce Boudreau. And this is, like I said earlier, a huge concern for the Capitals. If an offensive-minded coach in Adam Oates can't get points out of Alex Ovechkin, there might be something wrong with Ovechkin and not necessarily the coach. And I bet people are still wondering why the Capitals fired Bruce Boudreau, because he led them to the playoffs almost every year that he was the coach, and that included, or I guess one thing that was a knock on Boudreau was getting eliminated by the Montreal Canadiens in 2010. Now, the Capitals did play their best game of the season, their last game, which was against the Florida Panthers on February 9th, when they won 5-0. Except the Panthers are also really bad this season. Now, the Capitals they have 11 more games on national television, like NBC, SN, TSN, excuse me, not TSN, that's the Canadian channel. I'm only factoring in American channels here. A national, or NHL Network and NBC Sports Network and NBC. They have 11 more games on those channels. And if the NHL wants to market the Capitals as a premier franchise in the National Hockey League, and they're performing as poorly as they are right now, that's a major embarrassment, not just for the Capitals, but for the league itself. Coming up after the break, what is the team in the Western Conference that's performing almost as badly as the Capitals? Next, after the break.